Hi, Serena here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to swatch and review my second Prima Art Philosophy watercolor palette that I've gotten. And this one is the Odyssey. So come on, take a look with me. Now, I've previously gotten the Currents collection, which is a collection of blues and greens, and I'm really satisfied with that palette. But today I'm going to look at the Odyssey collection. And right off the bat, I've noticed one thing on the Odyssey palette that I didn't see with the Currents one, and that's the swatch card. The swatch card on this Odyssey is a single card, and it is missing some of the information. Now, it's got the color numbers that they assign to each color, but my Currents palette from from Art Philosophy came with the same box. It's the same box, but it came with a different swatch card. And you'd think that a swatch card is not that important, but it really is in this case. Now, the thickness of the swatch card is about the same in both cases, but with the one that came with the Currents collection is a double card instead of just a single card, so it gives you more room to actually do the swatching. It also, along with the number, which appears on both cards, it gives you the breakdown of the pigments, which I find very helpful because the paints are not pure colors. They're mixes of colors. So if you have a mix of colors, you want to know what pigments are in them to kind of know how they'll mix together. And it also gives you, on the card that came with the Currents, the light fastness rating. Of course, it's their own rating. It's a star rating. It's a 1, 2, or 3 star rating, depending on how light fast the color is. But this new swatch card, or the swatch card that came with the Odyssey, is missing both the pigment information and the light fastness. Now, I don't know if it's going to appear on their website or if this is all the information I'm going to get. But if this is the new swatch card, I'm a little disappointed in it. I'm hoping that the one that came with the Currents is the more recent swatch card, but I have no idea. Anyway, what I'll do right now is to go ahead and, since I've already reviewed the box and so forth in my Currents video, I'm going to just go ahead and take these colors out. I'm going to rearrange them in a different order, since I like to paint have them laid out in my palette in a different order, and then we'll go ahead and do some swatching. Alright, now we're all set to swatch out the Odyssey palette. Now, I took the palette as it was and I swatched out the card, so just to keep the order in mind and what the colors look like, so I wouldn't get too confused when I reordered them, which I did here. I reordered the half pans in the order in which I think I'm going to use them, and I'm going to swatch them out on this paper here, which I hope will be exactly like this one and come out like this one that I did for the Currents collection, and I'll just be able to just fold it up and put it right in the palette. But one thing I wanted to point out on this is how important the paper is that you're doing the swatching on. Make sure you use the same paper that you're going to paint your final work on to do the swatching. Don't use a scrap piece of paper thinking, well, I don't want to waste good paper. Use the good paper for the swatching, because if you use just cheap paper or whatever paper you have left over at the end of a painting session, you'll wind up with a big difference. And here's what I'm going to show you here. These are the same colors here. Look how much more vibrant they are on the high quality paper. They just pop out at you, and they give you a better idea of how they're going to perform when you're painting. Of course, these are just flat swatches I did very quickly. They don't have any gradient to them, but you can still see the vibrancy in this paper up here. Now, what I'm using today is going to be the Fabriano Artistico. This is the cold pressed 140 pound 300 GSM watercolor paper, and I like this paper. It doesn't seem to buckle, and it gives me just a nice enough texture to do what I need to do. So let's go ahead and start. Of course, now the first color, I don't even know why I would even do this one, but the first color is Calgary, and it's a white, but so you're not going to get very much on it. So I'm just going to go down the page very easily, add some water to that, not that you can see it on this, and go through the motions, because really I don't even know why they added a white. I wouldn't really use it as is. Now let me go on to the next one, which is Inca. Now this one looked really nice. I was surprised. You would think it's an orange in the palette. Look at that. It's not very yellowish, but look what happens when you add it to the swatch. That is a bright, bright yellow. I would almost say it's like a cadmium deep. It looks very, very nice. Look at how that color is moving down the page very nicely. Just a nice color, and I like the way these don't seem to require a lot of wetting, just a little bit, but they're very saturated colors. Now the next one is Maui. What do we think of when we think of Hawaii? This palette has, of course, a travel theme to it, and if you look at the colors, there's a little bit of everything in this one. Unlike the other one I reviewed, which was the Currents palette, the Currents was a little bit limited, of course, because it was mostly greens and blues, which is a nice palette. They have a nice selection of greens and blues, but for what I would need it for, you need and most people, you would need a little bit more variety. And this one, this Odyssey, really does it. You've got a lot of different paints on here. Now this one is going to be Tokyo. Look at that nice color. You get that water in there. Pull that down a little bit. Should pull this up further so you can see it. I'm trying to work sideways a little bit. So this one has a little bit of a pinkish tone to it. Very nice though. Very, very nice. Now the next one is Rome. That is more of a true red. Pick some of that up there. You see, it doesn't take very much to wet these palettes and get the color going, which I like. You're not sitting there, waiting for the color to absorb the water and then soften up. That one's a very nice one too. Look at that. Look at that, how that just moves down the page. Now those are very similar. If I didn't actually do them myself, I would almost double guess that. But that one has a little bit more of a, I don't know, maybe that one has a little bit more of a purplish to it than red. It's hard to tell. Now the next one I'll go over is Budapest. Okay, I had a little bit of a start in one of my classes when I left to use the telephone. Back in the days when you had to go in the hallway to use the telephone. I came back and class was already continuing in session from the break we took, and everybody was sitting down. We were talking about different colors and so forth, and the instructor had a book up front with you know, those little dots they give you for the colorblind test. And for the life of me, I looked and looked and looked and could not see the pattern. And I was almost in tears when I found out that I was colorblind in the blue range. How can you be an artist and be colorblind in the blue range? Or any range, right? Needless to say, I struggle a little bit with some colors, but I try my best. So that was Budapest. That's a very nice purple, nice deep purple there. Now the next one is Jamaica. I'm going to sneak over here, kind of cross over my work. There we go. Bring that down with a little bit of water. I like the gradient wash because it does give you an idea of how these are going to perform when you, that's a little too much water, how these are going to perform when you actually use them on the paper and what effects you can expect. In other words, do you think you can lift out certain colors based on how saturated they are and how transparent they are? Now the next one, that was Jamaica. This one is London. Very, very nice. All the way down to the bottom of the page. It's a little bit too... There we go. And the next one after that is Amsterdam. Now I'd be very curious as to what pigments these colors are made of, because they don't include that on the card in this sample. I'm really a little bit upset about that they didn't do that. So I'm hoping this is maybe an older set that was still on the shelf. Who knows? Alright, and the next one is Cusco. Now, I'm going to have to look this one up because I have no idea where Cusco is. Isn't that terrible? I'm so bad with geography, and of course now all the countries are changing names and they're not what they used to be, and you really have to keep up on that. But this palette, I in a way I kind of like, even though you can't see what the pigments are made of. I kind of like that there's this mystique about the colors themselves. The company is coming up with palette collections that give you kind of an idea of one thing or another, like the currents, about oceans and seas and waterways, and this one kind of gives you the feel of travel and excitement and seeing different cities. It's kind of a nice thing that they do, in a way. It kind of adds to the mystery of the palette and what color is this going to be. Now that was Dubai. That one I just did there. And this last one is Jordan. Moisten that a little bit. You can see you don't really have to wet them a lot to begin with. Look at that nice rich color. It's just a very beautiful, beautiful color. Look at that as I pull it down. It has a bit of a purplish to it. And if you want to change that, of course, if that's too purple, just add some of the yellowish. Just add some of the yellow color to it. Get that right in the corner there. Right. Now what we'll do is let this dry for a while. And I'll take the tape off and we'll see what we've got as far as swatch samples. See if I've made a good complement to this one for my Odyssey palette. Well, I think the swatch card came out pretty well. I like the colors in this set. Now, it lists for $30 roughly. I paid about $17, $18 with a coupon. This set is really going to be useful for me because of the variety of colors. As I mentioned in my other video for the Prima Art Philosophy Currents collection, it does fit my Escoda number 4 travel brush, which I like. That's going to be very nice. I pretty much see myself taking this on trips. If I want to go ahead and do some plein air painting, this is going to be a perfect complement, and I really do like the variety of colors. If you like this video, hit the icon, leave me a comment below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button. See you next time.